What's up, Doc? Welcome to the Docs Get Money podcast. Are you a badass doctor killing it professionally and has bigger dreams than just clocking in and out of the hospital? Do you want to leave behind a legacy that is as lit as an HBCU homecoming? Want to know how other doctors are getting to the big bag? That's right, making 5, 6, and 7 figures without putting on the white coat? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kimberly, but you can call me Kim or KB. I went from being a burnt out and overwhelmed emergency physician to the founder and CEO of 2 6-figure non-clinical companies and beating burnout along the way. I'm also your business coach, here to help you make money moves to change the world. This podcast isn't just about making money, though. It's about leveling up your life, mindset, and bank account so you can build an empire that's as iconic as Beyonce. You ready? Let's get into it. Picture this. You're sprinting out of a building engulfed in flames. The very structure you once revered as a temple of healing now is nothing but a towering inferno of burnout and frustration. Behind you, the endless nights, the thankless shifts, and the corporate medicine structure controlling how you practice are all consumed by the blaze. Up ahead, you see nothing but freedom, clarity, purpose, income, and impact. That's where I come in. And from side hustler to CEO, my signature one-on-one business coaching program, you'll start your own fire by launching your first profitable coaching, consulting, or midterm rental business and make clinical cash in 90 days or less. That's right, 4 or 5 figures in 90 days or less. This is for the doctors who feel like every shift is a dumpster fire, unmanageable, or just out of control. Let me help you rise from the ashes, thriving, and with a business that brings you life instead of sucking it out of you. Ready? Slide into my DMs on Instagram at Dr. Kimberly B with the word out, and let's turn the burnout into the bag. What's up, Doc? Thank you so much for joining me for yet another episode of the Docs Get Money podcast. So today is another interview episode, and I have Allison here, who is the spiritual business witch. Now, guys, this is a little bit different interview than what you're normally expecting. She is not a physician by training at all. And honestly, this is an episode with someone who I feel like is a friend in my head, an internet friend that I found her on Instagram, totally internet friends. But I've been going along my own journey, marketing my business from side hustler to CEO, you, of course, are just going to come along across people along the path. And I saw Allison's page, it's the spiritual business, which I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to like this girl. I click on her page and she's a Virgo rising, Virgo, Cancer, Pisces, but I'm a Pisces. So that automatically connected me. And then all I saw when I joined her page was purple and pink. And I'm like, okay, this girl is for me. I just knew that I was going to connect with her. But I love the way she blends her life and her spiritual gifts to serve clients. And of course, she's a coach as well, too. So I'm so excited to have you, Allison, on the podcast. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And please share with the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Yes, I'm the biz witch, the spiritual biz witch. That's just kind of my little brand name, but I'm a marketing mentor and business coach. And I primarily serve spiritual coaches, healers, and different like light workers, energy healers, and I help them build abundant-as-fck brands, right? So whether someone's brand new to having an online business or online service-based business, or they've had their skin in their game and they're looking to scale a little bit, it's my jam helping them do that. And I primarily do that through social media marketing. So I am an elder millennial. I am 40.
Same. I'm almost there.
And we grew up in AOL chat rooms with ASL, what's your name, talking to strangers. So I feel like those gifts have translated very well to the social media world. I just talk to internet strangers all the time, and that's how we made friends. So that's what I do.
Yes, we did because we were joking about that. She just turned 40 like last month, actually. Yeah, since you're a
Hmm.
Virgo, so your
Hmm.
September birthday. So you just turned.
Hmm.
I'm like, oh my god, and I'm about to be 42. Like just another
Hmm.
thing that's just
Hmm.
samesies. So yes, so happy belated birthday. And you're right. It's just I grew up in chat rooms as well too, and just speaking to random people across the country. And that's when it was scary. You're like,
I
well, who
know
is
it's
that
not scary
person?
anymore.
No, it's definitely not scary. That's how everybody's like living and talking to strangers
Yeah,
on the internet now.
it's true.
So since we are just internet friends, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background and how you even got into your mentorship and the coaching that you do?
So I'm going to try not to be too long-winded, so feel free to pause me if I get too long-winded at any point. Um, I did not start off as a business coach. I definitely did not. I started off as a spiritual life coach, but before that, I was in political advocacy work. So complete 180. So
Hmm.
I live in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area currently. And I know you're like, I'm learning so many things.
Because I'm literally going to DC tomorrow for my friend's birthday. I'm going to be there for the entire weekend. So that's strange, but continue.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So I moved here fresh out of grad school, living the dream. I'm a small town Alabama girl. I wanted to get away to the big city. I got away to the big city, living my dream life, working in political advocacy. Everybody moved here for work. And then around 2019, I started to have what I can fully recognize now as a spiritual awakening. And I had already gone through a spiritual awakening in my 20s, didn't have a word for it then, but that's when I kind of realized I could see energy and had certain gifts. And it was kind of my mind more opening to that stuff. This version in 2019 is what I like to call an ego death. So
Hmm.
I really identified my whole identification, my whole reality was wrapped around my career, as I think that's normal for most people. You kind of lose your sense of self and you become your career. And I started getting these and during my time in my career, I got really detached from my spiritual practices. I got wrapped up in work, work, work. I got wrapped up in like going out for happy hour with the girls afterwards and got really disconnected from source, really disconnected from something that used to be a big part of my life. And I guess spirit was like, oh, hell no, she's gotten way too off track. So let me make her life really miserable. And so I started to go through this spiritual awakening. People can experience spiritual awakenings in different ways, but the hallmark is that they're not pleasant. Um, and so
Yeah, at all.
I I realized, although the work I was doing was very valuable work, that I felt like I could help more people if I served at a one-on-one basis rather than trying to make systemic change through a broken system, right? And so this really was a big part of my identity, trying to make systemic change, and then realizing that we actually are going to do better by changing the individual hearts. And I'm just giving kind of the Cliff Notes version. You're welcome to ask more. And then I was like, all right, I've got to do something. I do yoga teacher training. I'm in yoga teacher training. I've been practicing yoga since I was like 23. I was like, I'm going to become a yoga teacher. I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I have no clue what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it. And then I was just like on my yoga teacher training's website and I was like, oh, they offer life coaching. What's a life coach? And I was like, I'm gonna do that. I had never worked with a life coach. I had no fucking idea what a life coach was. I immediately went out and started searching life coaching certifications, found one that was a spiritual life coaching certification. I was like, I'm going to do that. Did it. I had no idea what I was doing. Got certified as a spiritual life coach, was a yoga instructor, got a breathwork coaching certification. And then in 2021, I did work with my own business coach at first, but in 2021, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to quit my six-figure job. And people thought I was clinically insane. And I low key thought I was a little insane too, but I started off as a spiritual life coach, realized I'm really fucking good at marketing.
Hmm.
Really good at, and that's really important if you want to build a business. And in last April, so about a year and a half ago, I switched gears and I went from a spiritual life coach to a business coach that largely serves spiritual entrepreneurs. That's my really long story smushed into like a little bit.
Okay, well, let me break it down piece by piece. Let me try to remember where I have questions. Okay, so my first question is how. what was your spiritual background, I guess, growing up?
Mhm.
Even the little bit I do know about you, I know you didn't have a very super, prim and proper, picture perfect background. So how did you even become connected to your spiritual journey in the first place, I guess?
So I was raised Catholic, and I now in my belief system, I believe like every major religion holds truths, and every major religion holds things that warp truth. And so now I just consider myself spiritual, and I draw on these different teachings that resonate with me and kind of just create my own practice. Um, I like to say I like witchcraft, and that might sound scary to people, but all that really is working with energy. All that is working with energy, and everything is energy, down to our thought, down to our beliefs, down to our emotions. Everything's energy. And like anything, it can be done incorrectly or correctly. And I work with a lot of like Catholic saints and angels. But the way this has happened has been a journey of years, just years. Being raised in an organized religion, I held a lot of fear about thinking outside of the box, outside of what I believed in. I don't want to go to hell. I don't want to do anything bad. But
Mm-hmm.
something just kept pulling at me to explore other things. And it's honestly been a 20-year journey since about the time I was 20 till now, to like, and who knows, it might be another 20 years that I continue to evolve as I understand reality on a deeper level. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh no, it 100% did, and I actually can relate to that. I was born and raised in a Pentecostal apostolic church, so that is
Hmm.
very strict,
Hmm.
um, very narrow. I will say the blessing of how I grew up in like my specific church of where I grew up is that my pastor, my bishop, my spiritual leader was very big on education though, and he was
Hmm.
very big on us learning and seeking and reading, and as the Bible says, studying to show thyself approved.
Hmm.
So if you're going to say you're a Christian, at least know the word for yourself and be
Hmm.
able to apply different things. And of course, he went to school for himself. He's not like, he was a theologian, so he has been able to pull from different texts and things like that. So saying all that to say, even though I grew up like pretty narrow in the sense, I feel like my pastor still was like, but consider other things, but leave outside of Milwaukee and go explore and go to
Cool.
college and learn and be exposed to different things. And so I can relate, coming from, of course, a Christian base, but then being
Yeah.
able to still pull on that,
Yeah,
because I still definitely still
I do.
pull on that. I don't, I'm not just throwing away the Bible. There's still a lot of different things that
Yeah.
I also use in my spiritual practice as well too, that I was born and raised in. But I just feel like, especially so many people, I guess, I think physicians that I know are just so traditionally Christian, and it's like,
Hmm.
well, how do what is this, like what is an ego death, and what is a spiritual awakening? So some
Hmm.
of these things, like if you're in kind of that vibe or that flow, is like kind of natural for them, but
Yeah.
or for you to understand. But if not, it's like, what are you even talking about? But I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen people falling out, speaking in other tongues, and I've seen healings, I've seen miracles, which seems like, does that even still happen? I'm like, oh,
Totally
absolutely
does.
it does.
Totally does.
Absolutely it does. So I can totally relate to that. And then, of course, being just able to use different tools from different aspects, like you said, of just life journey along the
Hmm.
way. I can completely relate to that. So I guess my next question would be, so the political advocacy thing. So was there something that you were actually, like a cause you were advocating for, or what did that look like for you?
So when I worked in political advocacy, I worked for an environmental nonprofit. And so the place I worked at worked on anything from food sustainability to clean water to climate change. So, the big hallmark issues for environmentalism. And I loved it. It was a cool job until I started feeling like I was doing a lot of work for nothing.
Hmm.
Trying
Tell
to
me
like
about that. Yeah, tell me about more about that.
that's where the ego death comes in. So the best way I can explain what an ego death to folks who are unfamiliar with this term is, we have two parts of us, two primary parts of us. We have our human part, and we have our spirit or our soul. And you might hear people refer to spirit or soul as higher self as well.
Mm-hmm.
And depending upon your belief system, some people even believe that this is a part of us that is also God or goddess experiencing life as a human. And our ego self, that is our brain. That is the rational thinking, logical human. And our brain creates stories about us and who we are and our identity. And it creates these stories through our own personal programming of life, how you were raised, the traumas you've experienced, the good things, the bad things, right? So my ego had created a personality or a personal identity. Your personality is often your personal identity of
Mm-hmm.
I'm Allison, the policy researcher, and this is what I work on. And my whole ego, my whole human self was dedicated to this. I mean, everything about me was all about that. And then for whatever reason, spirit started planting little thoughts in my head. And I knew they weren't my thoughts. This is what you call downloads. When you get information that's not from you, just like kind of pops in, you're like, what? And I did have psychic gifts that I shunned away from. So like they were trying to open my eyes again. And by the way, a lot of people went through mass awakenings in 2020. It was very
Oh,
widespread.
yes.
So I started getting these downloads that my my work, though well intended, is not going to make systemic change. So there's this quote but in the Tao Te Ching, or it may not be in the Tao Te Ching, but it's by Lao Tzu, the supposed author of the Tao Te Ching, and Taoism's a Eastern philosophy and spiritual practice. And I'm going to probably butcher it trying to quote it, but I'm going to do my best. And the idea of this quote really tailspinned this ego death. And it's that if we want peace in the world, we need peace among nations. And if we want peace in the nations, we need peace among cities. And if you want peace among cities, you want peace among the neighbors. And if you want peace among neighbors, you want peace in the home. And if you want peace in the home, you need peace in your heart. I get chills even just saying that. And it's much more beautifully said than that, the actual quote. But it got me really thinking, like, you don't create systemic change by going the outside in, you go from the inside out. And so it was really challenging my whole perspective on how I was spending my life, who I was, what I was meant to be or do here. And I was like, I want to start helping on the individual level. Like I was a researcher. I would do research and I would have data and you can go like, look at all this numbers. You should believe this. That doesn't matter to people. People
They don't
don't
give a shit.
care.
They don't give a
You
shit.
got, unless there's internal change, and that's where real change comes from. So that is what I mean about like, I felt like my intentions were well intended, but that's not how you push the needle in making the world a better place.
Mm-hmm. No, that also makes sense. What I haven't shared between you and I, my audience knows, but I have both a public health degree and a physician. Of course, I'm an MD. So
Mm-hmm.
I was drawn to the public health space because of the broad change that you can enact and
Yeah.
being able to impact health like for populations and not just the one-on-one. I love the fact that I have the knowledge of going back and forth between the one-on-one and the broader scale, but I love the way you pulled it in and said, you know, if we're really going to talk about what it looks like to change things on a broad level, it has to start with a
Yeah.
one-on-one. It has to, before it's a billion, you have to get to one first, and then you have to
Yeah.
get to two, and you have to
Yeah.
get to three. Like you have to do it one by one along the way. I completely relate to that. So what did it feel like to walk away from the policy work?
Fucking terrifying. I I got this career straight out of grad school. Started off as a little researcher, then a senior researcher, then deputy research director, then research director. I went from like making entry level wages to very comfortable wages. And then I was like, fuck it. Let's start all over again.
Yes.
But I just had to do it. I cannot explain it any other way than just like I just had to do it.
What did it feel like, I guess, on the inside to know that you just had to do something different? Because I know I've been there as well
Mhm.
too. I had to have a rock bottom moment
Mm-hmm.
Maybe an ego death, maybe however you want to phrase it, but I would say a spiritual awakening, I guess, using that term as well too. But what did it actually feel like? I think to have the back and forth discussion with your higher self and your
Mm-hmm.
ego about what you were going to do
A
and how
lot of
you were going to quit.
crying. I was like, am I crazy? What's going on? You
Mm-hmm.
know, I remembered feeling a little unhinged for a while, really sad, really unhinged. But I was just like, I remember talking to my husband and I was like, all right, I'm starting a business. He's like, okay. And I was like, I want to eventually leave my 9 to 5. He was like, okay. And I was like, but I'm going to save some money. I'm going to save a cushion before I do it. And he was like, okay. So supportive though. I really could not have made the transition without him being like, go for it. I got you.
I love
But
that.
it's really hard to describe in words. I think sometimes inner turmoil is a challenging thing to describe, but I do think spirit would have kept making me more uncomfortable had I stayed where I wasn't supposed to stay. I was also having some challenges at work with some challenging personalities, which we
Okay.
don't need to get into. But I also think when we are at the end of what we were supposed to do and it's time to move on, spirit makes things more challenging for us because you're not supposed to be there anymore.
Right. Absolutely right. No, I have been there, and it's I wanted to see what words you came up with, but exactly for me, it was a whole lot of crying. For me, it's always a lot of crying and a lot of back and forth racing thoughts and having a conversation with myself, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not a fun experience, and I I can relate to the sense of having doors shut behind me. If you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're on a
Mm-hmm.
journey forward and
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to look back and you want to potentially go back to what was behind you, that door is shut, locked, probably padlocked,
Mm-hmm.
boarded shut. Like the
Mm-hmm.
universe, spirit, God, whoever you want to refer to it as, will definitely force you, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna feel. It's gonna feel like a
Yeah.
shove into the direction. Like, go ahead, go where you're supposed to go, because you're not supposed to be here anymore.
Yeah.
I can relate to that, especially because, like you said, this is you got this straight out of grad school. You climbed the ladder. You did everything you were supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, okay, I quit. I'm gonna start a business.
I know.
I'm done. I'm done.
Ugh.
So
People,
tell me
people,
about the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was like, people thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy.
About to say, yeah, when I started Sherwood Properties, I definitely thought I was crazy. I'm like, girl, you leaving medicine to start an Airbnb? Is that what you actually doing? Well, then I had to talk to myself. It's like, you're not starting an Airbnb. You're doing this and that. Um, but I was gonna say, tell me about the first few days, or in the few
Mhm.
for not just days, but weeks and months of your entrepreneurial journey. And you said you were yoga teaching, and then
Mhm.
you found life coaching. So tell me about what you decided to do. I guess a little bit more in depth.
So, being a Virgo, by the way, I'm a messy Virgo. Some people think Virgos are tidy. This one ain't. I think that's my Pisces
That's your
moon that keeps.
Pisces coming through.
I'm like, but I do like to have my shit in order. So when I decided I was going to start my business, the first thing I did was I got on a retainer with an accountant because the IRS terrifies me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the second thing I did was I hired a business coach. And I worked with that business coach for almost a year, 10 months, 12 months. By the time I was done working with her, I had made my first $10,000 cash month.
Wow.
Or maybe it was 9,000 cash, but still, I got successful very quickly. And with her support, I was able to, I put in a quite a lengthy like notice so they weren't screwed. I could get someone trained to replace me. I put that in, promptly had an emotional breakdown, but then I was not really. I was just like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I do? But I was ready. I was just so over. It's so crazy how you can love something for so long and then be so over it. But I was just so over it. I
Mm-hmm.
worked really hard at the beginning. I would wake up at like 5 a.m., do my work before work, work on my lunch breaks, work after work, a lot of work. Um, and then I did the whole spiritual life coaching thing. And I really focused a lot with working with women who were spiritually curious, who had overwhelming anxiety to holistically manage their overwhelming anxiety through spiritual practices like yoga, meditation, breath work, things like that. That was my initial
Okay.
niche. And then I started getting women sliding into my DMs like, damn, your marketing is so good. can you help me build a business? I'm like, oh no, I'm not a business coach, but it kept coming and it kept coming. And I realized what I actually loved the most about running a business was not, I mean, I loved helping people, but was more so the business aspect. Like, I loved marketing. I loved talking about entrepreneurship. I loved talking about new money generating ideas. Like, it really excited me. And I was like, oh, but I still wanted to keep that mission of helping people on the individual basis. So by serving people who are like healers and change makers and stuff like that, it's like I'm helping money get into the hands of people who are changing the world, as a business coach, when you work with people, I'm sure like you still do emotional support work with people. You can't avoid that. Besides,
Absolutely.
owning a business is like the most triggering shit ever. So,
Absolutely. All of your stuff
true.
is going to come up. All of it's going to come up.
Like,
yes.
Oh, I thought I healed that. Oh, I didn't know that was a trauma.
Oops.
So the first 10 months or so, I hustled my ass off to build my business. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I'm out. Mm-hmm. I quit my job within the first 10 months of starting my business. And I am for about 5 years in now. So
wow.
Here we go. Yeah.
That's incredible. So spiritual coaching, and then that was going well. Apparently clients were getting amazing results and things like that. And then people just started to notice, hey, what you got going on? Can you help me?
Yeah.
What do you do? Okay, so then tell me how you became the spiritual biz witch after that. I guess this is when this entity was born.
Yeah. So that was about last April. So for those of you who are wondering how psychic gifts work, some people do full on see spirits. I'm not one of those people. We have, and this is important to how I came up with my name, Spiritual Biz Witch. Spirit speaks to us in like symbols. So maybe you see repeating numbers a lot. Maybe you had a thought and then you see a repeating number. Maybe that number is confirming that thought. Or maybe you just know things. And I bet a lot of you in the medical profession have this, where you just immediately know what's wrong with this person. You just know, but you can't do that because you guys still test, right? That's claircognizance, the gift of knowing, right? And sometimes it's seeing like a bumblebee fly by, and that's symbolic to something. So spirit talks to us, but not like the way that you and I are talking today. And so I was like, all right, I gotta have like a scroll stopping brand name. I need to stand out in the crowd. Because here's the thing, if you're building an online business, there are a bazillion other people building online businesses too. And you need to create a way to stand out. And the best way to stand out is to highlight parts of your personality that are quirky or different. And so I was like, I really need to call myself something different other than marketing mentor and business coach. And I came across this post another business coach had written. She was not calling herself the spiritual biz witch. If she was, I would not have taken it. But she was jokingly saying, I'm a biz witch for your business, in like a caption she wrote. And I was like, that's fucking it.
That's it.
That's it. And so girl, it was such a pain in the ass. I had to change my handle. I had to change, just like the whole like rebrand of what I called myself. But I'm really glad I did it because it does make me stand out. People are like, oh, kind of curious now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure so many people are just drawn to, like you said, just from sheer curiosity. Or for me, I was curious at first. I'm just like, But then I also pretty much like knew, I was like, whatever this woman is talking about, I'm sure it's going to align with me. So it's almost like your calling card in a way as well too, as a signal up. It's like, hey, if you vibe with this, then I'm the person for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, your brand as an online business goes beyond just your color scheme. Your brand is your whole personality. It's what you call yourself, right? Like, and here's the cool thing. If you guys are in medicine, maybe you're looking to leave medicine full time. I left policy full time. You don't have to follow the same rules you followed in medicine. I don't have to follow the same rules I followed in my 9-to-5 career. I can cuss in my work. I can show up braless if I want to, and that also means infusing those quirks of yours into your brand. And that's what people want. When someone's shopping for a service provider, like a coach or a consultant or a healer, they're not just picking a can of soup off of a shelf. They want to pick someone that they really connect with.
Hmm. That's so good. That's so good because I think, actually, I know that's where a lot of doctors get stuck. Is their marketing. They'll start the business, they'll keep
Mm-hmm.
going, but then they get stuck in the marketing and they'll continue to repeat myself. Well, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a marketer. I'm not marketing. I don't know anything about
Hi,
marketing.
you're an
I've heard
entrepreneur. You are now.
you are right. That's what I'm like. You are now. So you better figure it out. But then it's also then it gets confusing, and I think people start to get caught up in, like you said, brand colors and what does it all look like instead of how does it feel and how do I want to be known and how do I want to be remembered. One of the best
Mm-hmm.
ways I heard a brand being described is your brand is what people say about you when you're not there.
Mm-hmm.
And that stuck with me for a long time.
I
It's
love
something I
that.
talk to my clients as well too. Just but like you said, when you're not online, you're still the spiritual biz witch, and you're still
Mm-hmm.
talking to other people, other light workers, other
Mm-hmm.
healers, other entrepreneurs as well too. So I just love what you said about that. Well, let me ask you this too. What do you feel like as a business coach and a marketing
Mm-hmm.
mentor? What do you feel like most of your people get stuck and where are they getting things wrong? I would say.
So I would probably say messaging. So the actual words that we use to articulate the transformation you sell. So marketing is how I like to say marketing is how you spread the word about your services. It's how marketing is everything for business. It's how clients find you. It's how you build like no trust. It's everything. But marketing is how you get this brand awareness out there. Messaging are the actual words used in your marketing that help move a client from point A to point B. And at least in my world, working with a lot of spiritual coaches and healers, they'll like pop online saying stuff like, I can help you live your dream life. And I'm like, that's not messaging. Or they'll say things like, DM me if you need help getting rid of your limiting beliefs. No one knows what a limiting belief is. They don't care. Right. So the actual words that you use in your marketing, I find that to be the sticky spot for most people.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I think one reason that messaging comes so easily to me is one, when I was a little girl, I wanted to grow up to be an author. So I love writing. Still want to do that. But also in my previous career as a researcher and writer for political advocacy, I wasn't writing like an academic in the line of work that I did. I
Mhm.
had to know how to evoke emotion and motivate people to act. Maybe it was to call their senator. Maybe it was to go to a rally, right? Now I have to evoke emotion and motivate people to DM me, to click the link. Same exact thing. And that's the area where I find people have the biggest struggle, is learning how to articulate the specific transformation, especially for people who do a lot of like more emotional work rather than
Mhm.
like if you're a fitness coach, it's pretty easy to be like, sign up and lose 10 pounds, right?
Mhm.
But if you are helping someone with like their mental health or like spiritually, you have to know how to use your words to make something that's not tangible to the reader, if that makes sense.
It makes 100% sense. It makes 100% sense because, well, let me ask you this too. I think that was gems right there, guys. So if you're starting a business and you're stuck and you're not seeing clients, take what Allison just
Mm-hmm.
said and apply it to your situation. I feel like mainly with the type of clients I work with, of course, other doctors, they struggle
Mm-hmm.
with that because so many people are disconnected from their
Yeah.
emotions. Have you seen that as well?
Well, what kind of comes to mind is a current client of mine in my Becoming Elite Retainer. So, my Becoming Elite Retainer is a done with you and done for you messaging retainer where I write with content and email marketing and landing pages with you and for you.
Hmm.
So, she's in this messaging retainer, and she kind of said a similar thing to when we first started working together. I think she works in like finance or something right now. She's looking to leave her finance. She's like, I have a really hard time shifting out of writing how I would write on the job for my 9 to 5 clients, and then writing in my brand voice for people who would want to hire me for this work. So I do see that, because the thing is, when you're working a 9 to 5, or, you know, you have your medical practice, you work in finance, whatever it may be, you have to present yourself a certain way. And you
Right.
also, I think, almost lose touch with your own personality sometimes, because you're
Yeah.
so constricted to boxes that you have to fill. So I think a big part is kind of rediscovering, who am I? What lights me up? Am I silly? Am I vulgar? You know,
Hmm.
like what what lights me up, like that's a really important part of figuring out the brand voice process.
I love that. I love the fact that you tapped on, of course, just getting back to yourself first to see
Yeah.
what connects and what resonates with you, and then going out
Mhm.
and doing it. So you told us about the retainer. Tell us more about how you work with clients. So what other ways do you work with your clients?
So I have a whole ass product suite that can help you at any stage of your game. I have a program called Get Paid. This is my signature program. It's all about it's a marketing and sales strategy intensive. It's all about hitting your first $5,000 a month and then scaling. And everything I teach in there, I still use every day in my business to grow my business and get clients. So I have that foundational offer, all the way up to my messaging retainer, to my high level one-on-one rich witch is what I call it,
I
where
love
we
that
work.
name.
Thank you. I just got it rebranded. It's super pretty. So I have that. I have a little, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term mastermind. I have a
Hmm.
mastermind called The Coven. It's where we kind of merge the practical and magical sides of running a business to help you make money and sign clients. So I have a whole product suite. And if you didn't know where to start, you could just shoot me a message.
Awesome. And we'll definitely make sure that we have your contact information in the show
Awesome.
notes, including your Instagram, which is
Yeah.
how I found you. Um, so tell me what it's like now being an entrepreneur, especially as a business coach. I think
Oh,
so.
so
The other
good.
thing, what I would say is coaching is relatively new in the house of
Hmm.
medicine. I feel like every other industry, including business, including health, of
Hmm.
course, just general health,
Hmm.
even real estate, things like that,
Hmm.
has been exposed to coaching for years. But medicine and physicians, more specifically, are just now aware of what
Hmm.
it is, the power of coaching. And then I feel like there's a surge, more specifically, of women physicians becoming
Yeah.
coaches themselves as well too. So I was gonna say, I of course am a business coach, like we all know on this podcast, and I interview other coaches, but I always just get so curious as to what your life is like now that you have
Mm.
decided to be a coach. And yes, you're an entrepreneur as well too, but wearing both of those hats, how
Yeah.
is that like? What does it feel like to be at that point?
Feels like freedom. So I'm a big homebody. I love being at home, unless like I'm traveling or something like that, but I love being at home. So my day is usually I get up in the morning and I'll do my marketing work. And then I'll either go take a yoga class or go to the gym or teach a yoga class. I still teach yoga on the side. Gets me out of the house, makes sure I'm social. I'll go do that. I only do coaching calls Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Mondays are no calls. Fridays are no calls. So I can have extended weekends if I want. And then of course, Tuesdays through Thursdays, I'm just like super busy, supporting my clients on calls and programmatic work, things like that. Mondays and Fridays are a bit more administrative, but every day I get to the gym or yoga studio and I go on at
Mm-hmm.
least a 2 mile walk with my dog. And it's such a simple pleasure, but like, I that's the thing about working for someone else. You're so constricted and then you spend your whole life, missing out on life. And even if you are just a homebody like me and you just
Right.
enjoy a nice long walk on a beautiful fall day, you can't do that when you're working for someone else.
No, you can't. No. And
Yeah.
definitely not when you have, if you're a doctor and you are working like I did, if you are
Yeah.
contracted and you have to work a certain amount of hours and weekends and nights and holidays,
Yeah.
things like that, that's part of the reason why I transitioned my practice to doing locums, so I can
Yeah.
make my own schedule when I'm ready to work clinically. I love that. And that's, I think, where so many of us are ready to be, is where we
Yeah.
can really just do what we want to do. Like
Yeah.
it's okay if you just want to walk your dog for 3
Yeah.
hours today.
It's
That's okay. Like, you need to be
65
outside.
degrees. Go enjoy it.
Go enjoy it. Why not? You don't have to be cooped up at home if you
Yeah.
don't want to. But I love the fact that entrepreneurship and coaching for you has really brought just freedom and just more
Yeah.
choices for you. Yeah.
How about you? Same?
Honestly, same. I love the fact that I'm also a homebody. I just moved, so I don't really have any friends to go out with, and I'm still learning how to be sociable right now. I can just kind of be social with the people I'm social
Hmm.
with online. But for
I'm the
me,
same.
for me, it's given me more flexibility on my time, as well
Hmm.
too. Like, I've cut down to part time. I'm able to be at home,
Nice.
work in my office, um, take a nap in the middle of the day if I want
Ooh.
to, get up, hang out with my fiance, get up, do something else, take a long weekend, like you said, as well
Yeah.
too. But it's really been, I think, being an entrepreneur, and more specifically, the coach side of what I
Hmm.
do, has given me back what I missed in medicine. Like,
Yeah.
when I was in residency, it was very hard, but I loved it because the hospital that I worked at in Memphis, like, they would start pouring in and they would be so sick. And as an ER doctor, I mean, that's what we do. We save lives. We're literally on the front line. So
Yeah.
every day when I left residency, I knew I had saved at least one person's life, or I had impacted one person
Hmm.
at the bare minimum. And then when I finished and started practicing, and then
Hmm.
COVID, you talk about spiritual waking, things like that. I'm just a discharge machine. Like, I, they are
Yeah.
paying me an exorbitant amount of money to tell you to go home and take some Tylenol and lay down and it's going to be okay. And I don't feel like
Yeah.
I'm changing anything. I don't feel
Yeah.
like I'm helping anyone. And
Yeah.
then the education of that all gets very remote. So, saying all that to say, like I said, coaching now, being able to help other doctors get to the point where they can believe in themselves enough to go ahead and step outside of the
Yeah.
box and to create what they see and to empower them. That's what lights me up and that's what keeps me going. I was just interviewing with somebody else and they were talking about that's their icky guy. And I'm like, yeah, that's mine it too. Like, there's just something about watching another person achieve the
Totally.
goal that they finally wanted. They did not think that they knew they could do it, but they knew
Totally.
they couldn't do it by themselves. And it's just like, it was just your strategy, your tips that led them through. That's what makes me feel good. So this is what I missed for a long time in medicine. And I feel like I've been able to get that back as a coach, more specifically as a business coach.
Totally. There's nothing that feels better than seeing the people you work with like nail it. The best
Just
feeling.
soar.
And it's that
I
heart,
had
it's that
okay.
heart to heart, it's that person to person like change that we need in the world.
Yes, and which is what you were talking about before, because the
Mhm.
impact starts one to one, and that led me to think of, the reason why I think coaching is also so powerful. Of course, is that when you decide to show up and be authentic and of yourself, and then you go out and you sell to a client, and then
Mhm.
they are able to show up authentically in their space, and they impact people that you will never see, you'll never
Mhm.
even know, and then those people will impact other people, and then like, it's just such a beautiful
Yep, that ripple effect.
spiritual ripple effect of just like, hey, every time I decide to show up for myself, someone else is going to believe,
Yeah,
and someone, like, it sounds woo woo, and it is, but that shit works at the same time as well too, because that's, like I said, the power of what keeps me going is just to seeing my clients then getting on sales calls, and like, now they're working with these people and they're seeing different things from this, they're achieving their goals. I just love it. I just love it. I
and
just love
I
it.
also think it's brilliant to bring doctors into the coaching space because you're saying how that hasn't really like caught on as much in the medical field. If someone's not doing something that makes it that much more profitable, that makes it that much more likely to like be successful, it gives you an edge because the best thing to do is not be like everybody else, is
Right.
to create something unique.
Right. Right. And not being afraid to stand up in that. And I think so many
Yeah,
doctors are, it's so easy for you just to hide behind the white coat and just be like, okay,
sure.
I'll just be bland Dr. X. But yeah, you have to stand up and just be authentic and share of your
Yeah.
own as well too. Um, Allison, this is a great, great, great discussion with you. Tell us a little bit more about where my audience can find you. If they've
Yeah.
started a business and they need some messaging and business help, how can they get in touch with you?
So I don't have a website. I got rid of my website like a couple years ago, but I'm super active on Instagram. So my handle is Spiritual Biz Witch, all one word. And you can find me there. Shoot me a DM. I'm super nice.
Very nice. She's extraordinarily nice. But I have a question about what you just said. So many doctors feel like they need websites and
Mm,
logos and things like that. Why'd you burn down
mm.
your website?
It didn't bring me clients. It was a money waster. So here's two things that you need to have a good website that brings in money. One is you have to have fan fucking tastic messaging. You need to know who your client avatar is, upside down and inside out. You need to know what your client avatar's pains are and what their desires are, and make sure your website speaks to that. And most people starting off a business do not have the answers to that. So it'd be premature to invest a lot of time, money, and energy into building a very beautiful and big website when you don't even know the person that you're going to serve or how to speak to them. Then if you once you nail those things, if you want to create a website, sure, go for it. But this is what you're going to need for it to work. You're going to need to hire someone to put some really good search engine optimization into your website. What that means is this is how you get discovered on Google. Because unless you're Tony Robbins, and I don't think you are, nobody's Googling your name, searching out your website. So you're going to want to have certain keywords to be found on a Google search. And guess what you need to have good SEO, good messaging. But most people also are not tech savvy for that, and they get into website type of retainers that are like a monthly fee to make sure that their website is optimized at all points, so they're pulling up on Google. I, like everybody else, prematurely created a website, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like trash because I had no idea what I was freaking doing.
Right.
And it never brought in clients. And then I learned marketing and messaging and got all my clients through Instagram, and I got rid of it. And I might get a website in the future, because I'm obviously good at messaging now and know who I serve, but I will not get one unless it's like a very expensive, well built out one with incredible SEO.
That makes 100% sense. And um I man, just free game, all the free game in the world. Y'all please stop building these websites and go get clients. Find other ways to connect with people because it's just too much. And I feel like doctors, and like I said, I'm calling all of us out because I felt like this too. It makes you look more official
Mm-hmm.
if you have a website, and so you can read information, and so that you can get more knowledge. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, no.
Websites are the cassette tapes of marketing.
Say that again, please.
Websites are the cassette tapes of marketing.
Now, it'd be really bad if you said 8 tracks, but I'll give you cassette tapes because you know we're both elder millennials here because I don't know anything about an 8 track. Real talk. So, what would you say is the Spotify, the Apple Music of
Mm-hmm.
marketing these days?
Social media, everybody's on it. Everybody needs to be good at it. Even brick and mortar businesses are having to finally like really put a lot of time, energy, and resources into building up their Instagrams or whatever else. I use Instagram, build up their social media platform. That's where people go to find stuff now. That's where people go to look for things. I've found all of my coaches and mentors through social media. All of
Hmm.
them.
Shit.
You too?
Me too.
See?
And
Social
I
media.
and
It's
I definitely teach social media marketing, organic marketing on social media to my clients, especially when they're first launching. But it's just like I had to really think about that. Everybody that I have met has been
Mhm,
through either Facebook
mhm,
or Instagram, and honestly, also too referrals. like from
Yeah.
other people as well too.
Yeah.
The one person that I found that I worked with like the most recently, I actually read her book first and was
Hmm.
obsessed with it, and then okay, of course, and then I found her on social media
Yeah.
and then started connecting with her from there. So that's the one thing that I have done, like, beforehand, but that was, I had no connection with her. I didn't even
Yeah.
know she was a business coach until I read the book. But, and then, like I said, it was social media after that. That makes sense. Would you
Yeah.
say there's one platform that's better than the other, or do you really truly think that that's based on who your ideal client is and where you're trying to work with them or try to reach them?
I'm sure it has a little bit to do with your ideal client. My ideal client's not going to be on LinkedIn. They're just
Mm-hmm.
not going to be there, you know? My my understanding of the social media platforms, I do think that Instagram and LinkedIn are probably two of the best ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would never be on LinkedIn. My people wouldn't be there. I don't know much about it, but I am connected with some people who do like LinkedIn marketing, and it's like a great resource for them. I think Facebook is probably one of the worst ones, in my
Hmm.
humble opinion, because just the way that it's structured. You know how like when you go to Instagram and you can scroll, it's just so easy to like
To
discover
binge.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Facebook doesn't really have that same kind of like feel to it. I know some people have had a lot of success in it, especially using Facebook groups. But I
Mm-hmm.
think Facebook groups are personally best for business coaches. And if you're not going into business coaching, it's going to be a little more challenging. I don't know anything about TikTok. I'm too old. But I know it's all videos. And I'm sorry if I can't write a caption, if I can't use my words, if I have to twerk on camera, I ain't doing it.
I hear you, because my ass doesn't go up and down fast enough to do all these dances anyhow. No, I hear you. I've
Got
just
knee
been
problems now. No.
exactly. We 40. We got other things to worry about. Other body parts to be concerned of. No, that's so true. I'm not currently on TikTok. I don't.
Mhm.
I'm sure my clients are there. I'm just not there. And I've had more success with Instagram, I would
Yeah,
say. But honestly, it's been Facebook groups for me. I
that's
think I've
even.
there in the physician space, because of a lot of us skew kind of older
Yeah,
millennials. We still have, our Facebook pages.
yeah,
So it's been connecting with people in Facebook groups. As a matter of fact, one of the clients I just signed, I actually
that's
was talking to
awesome.
her about you, funny enough, right before we jumped on. I met her in a Facebook group as well too. So that, what I like about Facebook is that it's easy to find community there, and that's a
Yeah,
good place to sell and, like I said, to build your own community, like you said, or even starting your own
yeah.
Facebook group as well
I'm
too.
on Facebook. I cross post to it. I have a couple little groups in there. I found for me personally, when I was a spiritual life coach, getting leads was a little more challenging on it than getting leads on Instagram. But whatever, whatever social media platform, I think it's best to pick a social media platform when you're starting out and master it. Try not to like extend your energy too many different places. Master one and then go from there. Also, a lot of people have a lot of success with YouTube. I briefly had a YouTube video podcast, but then I was like, I don't have time. How the hell people, I don't know how you have time to do a podcast or like the energy to do one? Because I really loved the idea of it. And then I was like, I'm done. Stick a fork
I
in me.
I
I'm
just
done.
You know what? Speaking of primary messaging channel or messaging channels, I knew that if I started a podcast, that I could say what I wanted to say, make
Yeah.
it how I wanted to make it. And then plus I'm a big consumer of podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, even if I'm at home by myself before I moved in with my fiance, like I would just have not music playing, but either an
Yeah.
audiobook or some sort of a business podcast, and I'm learning
Yeah.
and I'm trying to, build from there. So I was like, okay, what do I like to consume?
Yeah.
Or
I
where
mean,
do
it's a
I
great
normally get my
idea.
yeah. So and then I'm like, nobody is really talking about non-traditional ways to make money outside of the clinical work. I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yep.
So it's been a great journey along so far, but I love the basic thing that you said is find what resonates with you first. I think that was the core of
Yeah.
everything that we said, is
Yeah.
whatever resonates with you as the
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And then knowing that that's someone that's going to be your client, your ideal client, it's going to resonate with them as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because your ideal client's going to be a past version of yourself,
Yes. Yes.
almost always.
Yes. True tea. Y'all, Allison is dropping gems. Pay attention. Dropping gems. So, yes. Anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we go?
Not off the top of my head, but thank you so much for having me on. It was so much fun.
It was amazing. Thank you so much again, Allison. And so again, y'all, please make sure you guys follow Allison on Instagram. Again, her link is in the show notes, but not the spiritual biz witch, just spiritual biz witch. There's no the. That's just me. I'm just calling her the because she's like Megan the Stallion to me.
I'm okay with the the.
And what I really, really like about following Allison is that she'll pop in and do lives, and she may pull a card for you. She may pick up a vibe for you, give you a message, give you a download, but you always leave her page edified. You're going to laugh, you're going to have fun, and you're going to learn something. So thank you for bringing almost like your online identity to life and to the Docs Get Money podcast. I've super enjoyed this interview with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Docs Get Money podcast. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you find your favorite podcast. Share, comment, follow, and subscribe to the Docs Get Money podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to know more, visit me, Dr. Kimberly Brown, at KimberlyBrownMD.com, and be sure to follow me at Dr. Kimberly B on Instagram. And until next time, let's go get this money, honey.